I actually blogged about this. I don't think having access to this tools makes you creative. You see so much shit being created by people who've got a Canva account.
Oh, no, absolutely. Yeah, totally. And that's a whole, I mean, there's our next...
Hello and welcome to episode 296 of the Rockstar CMO effing Marketing Podcast, a proud member of the Marketing Podcast Network. Hope you're well and staying as sane as you feel you need to be. I'm your host, Ian Truscott. I'm not a rock star, but I am a CMO, and on this podcast, I chat with a band of marketing chums who share their marketing street knowledge, which I hope will bring out the rockstar marketer in you. It's Wednesday, the 5th of November, time for my chum Cathy McKnight, chief problem solver at 7th Bear, to make her monthly visit to the studio. And this week, we dive into her perspective of the changing CMO role, based on her current client experience. But first, we need to pay the bar tab. I'll be back in a moment.
We'll be right back after this word.
We'll be right back
After this word.
Hey marketers, Deborah Eckerling here.
And I'm Keith Smith, and we host the MPN Meta Marketing Show, which is not just another marketing podcast, but the marketing podcast about all the other marketing podcasts.
Podcasts are booming, right? We love them, and people actually listen. They don't scroll, they don't swipe, well, except maybe during the ad breaks.
But here's the secret. With the Marketing Podcast Network, your ads don't make people hit skip. We put your brand on shows that people actually want to hear.
That's right. We match your message with podcasts that make marketing nerds like us perk up and take notes, or at least nod knowingly, pretending they understand.
And don't worry, because we'll deliver your ad naturally. People might even think that we love your brand personally, which of course we totally do, unless it's a veggie smoothie, then maybe not.
If you want your brand heard without making listeners roll their eyes,
head to marketingpodcasts.net and catch marketing fans at work, rest and play. Seriously, your audience is already listening. Make sure they hear your brand and not our awkward jokes.
Join the conversation, because good ads shouldn't just be tolerated, they should be enjoyed.
Yes!
Adobe Acrobat Studio, so brand new. Show me all the things PDFs can do. Do your work with ease and speed. PDF Spaces is all you need. Do hours of research in an instant with key insights from an AI assistant. Pick a template with a click. Now your prezzo looks super slick. Close that deal? Yeah, you won. Do that, doing that, did that, done. Now you can do that with Acrobat. Now you can do that with the all-new Acrobat. It's time to do your best work with the all-new Adobe Acrobat Studio.
Welcome back, Cathy, to Rockstar CMO FM. How are you?
I am well, Ian. How are you?
I'm good, thank you very much. And how is we always start with the weather. How is the weather in Toronto today?
The fall has settled in deeply. It is, we've had frost already. Leaves are falling. God. Garlic got planted yesterday. So
nice.
Yeah, we are firmly into fall, prepping for the first snow, probably in another few weeks at least.
Oh my God. Well, that's, we do keep promising ourselves that we're going to have a gardening podcast, don't we? So yeah, the garlic's gone in, so that's cool. Yes, it's blustery and grey today, and our leaves are falling. Have all your leaves already fallen then? Is that you're a bit further ahead?
No, we have, in our front yard, we have 3 different species of trees, and they all fall at different rates. So I just, there's the annual debate. Do you wait until all of the leaves are down to start raking? Or do you do it in fits and starts? And I always tell myself, I'm going to wait till they're all down. Why would I waste my time repeating, rinse and repeat? And I fail every year and end up doing them because,
It's the same here. I got a garden with trees in, and at the weekend I thought, no, I'm gonna bring them up, mow them, and create leaf mulch and all the good things that us gardeners do. And then a few days later, it's covered in leaves again, and you think, well, why did I do that?
Exactly.
All right. Anyway, we're not here to talk about gardening as much as we would like to. Let's kick off with, so it's been a month since I saw you last, and I think that we were talking about the fact that it was conference season was just kicking off. And you've been all over the place. So
I have.
what events have you been up to, and what's your take on where we are currently based on those events?
Yeah, so I'm off a 4 or 5 week travel, but the conferences that I've been at was I spoke at Smash in Vegas, and then was at Salesforce Dreamforce, which is their big annual massive 100,000 plus online, 40,000 plus in the city of San Francisco conference. And then not that, as a mom, you're never supposed to play favorites, same as an analyst, but Adobe Max, which is one of my favorite conferences to go to every year. It's their Creative Cloud focused conference. And that was in LA. And I just always come back so inspired and enthusiastic about creativity and
Nice.
content and creation and marketing. And, it renews my faith in our industry.
Well, a couple of things. One is, I imagine you probably get to catch up with a whole load of great people from that industry that we know.
Yeah.
But also, the nice thing about the Adobe suite is it's got some cool stuff in it. It's not just talking about CMS, web content management, or headless or any of that stuff that we know we have to. No, it's all about
none of that
creative.
At this conference. So, they have Summit in the spring, which is their enterprise side of the business. So that's all, AEM and whatnot.
Nice.
But this is the Creative Cloud side. So this is Photoshop and Lightroom and Premiere. And so it's all of this content creation and movies and art. And
awesome.
Oh my gosh, it's just
all right.
And the talent. I aspire because I want to be that person. I mean, I do photography, so that's how but to put a marker or a drawing on paper, forget it. And Ian, you should see stuff. It's gobsmackingly good.
Yeah, my daughter's a illustration. She's got a degree in illustration, and I love all that stuff. What they can do, and a lot of it is, she does it on I'm holding my hand up and I'm writing for an audio only. But yeah, she's got all the tablet, the Adobe stuff, and does what she can achieve is really cool.
Adobe does a Max in London, and there is a student fee, and she would love it. I actually took Emma, my daughter, this year. She came with me to LA, and she sat in on a bunch of sessions, although she's just finishing up her master's in medical biophysics, so not in the creative industry, but she found it really helpful. So she learned about like storytelling and cohesive use of color and fonts and which is great. That'll serve her well through her defense and then into law school next year and all the things. So
I love all that stuff. I mean, I did. I know I didn't finish my studies, but I was doing our A level when I was 17, 18, and I used to be able to draw a bit, and I don't do anything like that anymore. The most creative I get is choosing the colors on a website or doing Photoshop for this show or whatever. It's Adobe Express, just to drop the name, but that's my.
Oh yeah,
anyway,
Adobe Express and Firefly for anybody who.
My God.
Oh, it simplifies things for people like you and I who maybe aren't as creative as we'd like to be, but brilliant.
Well, I think. I mean, I was a convert from Canva, so I used to use the full Adobe suite. Then I went Canva. Then I've come to Express. I think it's great, but I don't think. I actually blogged about this. I don't think having access to this tools makes you creative. You see so much shit being created by people who've got a Canva account.
Oh no, absolutely. Yeah, totally. And that's a whole. I mean, there's our next topic. That's what we should talk about today. That's our next topic is the, does AI make you creative? No. You have to be creative from the get-go, because the difference between, and this is what this conference showed, right, is the difference between a C-Pro, creative professional, or even somebody who's just truly creative using these tools versus somebody who's not. Yeah. Unbelievable. It is night and day.
I think it's really interesting because I've actually seen it with a former client. Is you can see the lack of attention to detail. You can see that people don't understand that colors need to be consistent, or lines need to be consistent, or the basic layout of an image, to make it look. And that's what a designer's eye is like. And you don't get that with AI. So that was Adobe Max.
Yes.
But the Smash event, I'm not familiar with Smash. So what was the Smash event?
Smash is the I don't actually know what the acronym stands for, but it's the 55 plus lifestyle living places. So not just assisted living. It's not just about people who need help, but it's the 55 plus neighborhoods, right? Where you go when there's no little kids in the neighborhood and they have all of the things. And it's a massive, the research that I did going into it before obviously going to the conference, it's a bajillion-dollar business. And you talk about an industry that is in dire need of updating in terms of marketing approach, right? So I talked to them about buyer enablement driven marketing, right? So stop with the listicles of services and, answer what people are actually looking for and all those kinds of things. So it was really well
Isn't that
organized.
amazing?
And
I mean,
it was lovely.
Yeah, we've been doing so as part of Velocity B, we've been looking at a lot of startup websites and a lot of B2B tech websites and stuff like that. And one of the things that I actually wrote about the other day was, what is it you actually fucking do? So, and I think it's interesting that applies in different industries, in that the listicles isn't the thing, is it? It's that emotional story that you tell about the service that you offer that people buy, rather than the list of features and functions, even if you're running an over 55s community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which obviously we're decades away from needing, right?
Absolutely.
All right, so that's smash. Now, Salesforce, Dreamforce. I think when we chatted last time, you were just about to go there, I think. And also you'd written a really good article for Salesforce and their blog. So we were chatting a bit about Salesforce last time. What did you come away from Salesforce learning about? I mean, I know that they're all they're all talking about agentic AI and all that kind of stuff. Was that?
That's the major focus for them is agentic, and it truly is. For those who think that it's just chatbot 2.0, it's not. It is truly a different whole other level of AI and engagement, and it's great. I mean, but as is so many things with technology vendors, right? Is they are so far ahead of what the average organization and average client can actually tackle at this point. We are, Robert and I are still working with clients, and we do our content strategies and roadmaps. There's always an AI element to it now. It's whether it's readiness or next steps or path forward, whatever it is. But we have yet to work with an organization who would be ready to really jump into an agentic environment because their content's not structured for it, right? You need to know where things are. You need to have it in components rather than locked in assets. Now AI is getting way better as far as being able to gather that information from lockdown assets, but they're not mature enough, right? And part of that comes from most organizations look at marketing as a necessary evil, right? They don't look at it as a strategic function. They're not enabling the teams to really lead that. They're so caught between spend and being thrift on that side to delivering. We want to see this. Those who don't understand marketing are still looking at vanity metrics, which, great, you should measure, but you've got to look at other things. And no matter how hard the marketing teams, and I've seen it, try and convince the other parts of the C-suite that no, like this is the way we have to go, or this is what we need to invest in. It's like, that's okay. As soon as you show me this, we'll get to that.
Yeah. Well, one of the interesting things about the AI topic, and particularly that agentic topic, which is, hot on the lips of everybody at the moment, is I saw I think it was a Gartner survey where they had, what are your top priorities for this year from a bunch of CMOs, and a lot of them were things that you would expect: demand generation, all the good stuff that marketing does. And one of them was do something with AI, like just do something with AI, and it just really popped out, I think you and I have been through a number of sort of technology phases where it's the hottest thing and we've got to use this technology, but actually, what are you using it for? And I think that's the interesting thing about agentic. And then you saying, about how the organizations you work with aren't ready. And I presume that's because this thing would just automate doing stuff badly faster, right? You're just going to fail at scale. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So those are the events you've been at. And the other thing we were discussing, and you kind of started hinting at it there, was that you've got some ideas about the CMO role. I don't know if that's come through from these events you've been at or just something you've been brewing on from working with your clients. But tell us a bit about you're talking about how, the CMO has got an identity crisis.
Yeah. So what we're seeing is, and, we've been noticing it for a few years now, is, unlike a CFO or CTO, CIO, where you come up through that rank, right? You come up through that function. Yeah. The CMO, used to either come up through a marketing organization if you were on the brand side, or from as an agency, from like creative director or that kind of role. And now what we're seeing is it's kind of all over the place, and they don't always come up through the discipline or related to the discipline, right? And it's really difficult. It's almost as if it's a testing ground, that baby toe into the C-suite, and let's see how you play with the others in some cases. Now, that's not to say for all of them. We've absolutely seen where the CMO is, come up through the marketing ranks and whatnot. But the role has been diminished, I think, because there's so much focus on short-term metrics is one of the reasons. And they're not thinking about it from a strategic and building perspective, right? So they have these conflicting expectations where the CMO is being pressured for short-term, data-driven, and that's a whole other conversation when they think they're being data-driven and they're not. Versus building long-term brand and engagement and advocacy, right? Which is you have to go a different route. Yes, you should have some short-term build up, but you've got to look at the long game, right? And they've now been saddled with things like sales and technology and customer experience. Organizations are, some organizations don't even have a CMO. They're being called chief growth officers or chief experience officers, which again dilutes the function and takes away from the focus of marketing and what that does for an organization.
Yeah, you're absolutely talking my language here, Cathy, and I didn't wind you up and set you off on this progress because obviously that's something that's near and dear to my mind. It's good I know you're not an external observer, but you work with a lot of clients and you're an analyst and more of a consultant than you are a practicing CMO, unlike myself. So to hear you say that sounds even better. But also, you're absolutely right about the short-term revenue demand roles. But I think it was interesting you saying about people coming up through the ranks or coming from these different disciplines. I mean, myself and a couple of other B2B tech CMOs I know, we came up through tech, pre-sales, product management, even product development, and then product marketing, and then into the CMO role. So I guess we did, but we're not classically trained. I'm certainly not a classically trained marketer. I can only look at all the books behind me and tell you where I learnt mine marketing from. But are you seeing people coming from even further out of the different fields?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I've seen somebody who's come up through the tech side of things. Oh, well, you've managed the tech stack for the MarTech stack, so you must know marketing. We've seen marketing. We had one organization where the CMO was a former VP of HR. HR and communications, right? So they'd say, "Oh, communications, that's marketing. You're now the CMO." It's it's almost like marketing's a bit of a hot potato, and because it's a cost center, because it's still so many organizations are so far behind in terms of core organizational enterprise level marketing baseline things like core set of personas, core set of journeys that have that then get cascaded down to be executed, right? But that baseline, it's one-offs. They're not getting the investment. The teams are being marginalized and asked to do so many things. The whole slew. I mean, we've talked about the decimation of the marketing team, and unfortunately, the companies It's number crunchers that often make the decisions, and I get they're really hard decisions, but they're letting go the wrong people, right? The marketing teams are now flooded with, junior level, what I would say, not even mid-level individuals who don't have the experience or expertise to be able to be the strategic, to look beyond the task base. It's become a tick the box. We had that conversation several months ago about how a lot of things has become so process driven, and toss it over the fence. I've ticked my boxes. Now it's your turn. Nobody's looking up or downstream. And that's the CMO's role, right? And it's missing.
Yeah. And I think I've also seen that sort of juniorification really of a lot of marketing leadership at the moment. And I think where you were saying there about how it's a step into the C-suite, I think it's becoming less of a step into the C-suite, because you now see a lot of senior marketing leaders who actually report into a CRO, or they're not seen as proper C-suite thing. And when we were chatting before I hit record, we were talking about how marketing can then be seen as a service and is not a strategic. And don't get me started on this particular hobby horse. It's all about you, Cathy. But is that also something that you're seeing there? Is that's the challenge?
Absolutely. I mean, their influence has been absolutely diminished and marginalized. And excuse me, when I mentioned earlier about how some organizations don't even have a CMO anymore, right? When you go from being CMO to CXO, I'm okay with, because experience is what we're trading on, right? This is, it is about creating experiences regardless of your target audience, whatever your goals is, it's about creating the right experience. So
true, it's a bit of a bullshit title though, isn't it? Really?
I totally agree, but I can find peace in that, right? I can find find the synergies, not to use a really bad word, but I try and avoid that one. But when the CMO turns
shift.
But when the CFO turns into the chief growth officer, that's a problem, right? Because that is absolutely shifting the focus and what they're going to be measured on. And that's not good, right? So between that and not having, so as a chief growth officer, you're now going to push performance metrics on constantly from a revenue perspective. And where, again, a lot of organizations still think of conversion equals money, right? A conversion is when you buy something, when you sign up for something, when you enroll in a service. Conversion is about getting to the next step. And often, again, most organizations, I would say, think about the customer journey as that small subset of the sales conversion. And a customer journey is really, really long. And the conversion of sale on actual acquisition, where there's a transaction of money, is a very, very small part. There is conversions all along to get you to the next step, and they're not seeing that. So if you're the growth officer, you're looking at that really small subset.
Yeah. I've got a couple of thoughts on that. One of them is like the CRO or chief growth officer role. Somebody asked me about it the other day. What did I feel about that, about marketers working for CROs? I said, it's more about the people, right? If you've got a CEO that doesn't understand marketing and hires a CMO, that's going to be just as bad as if you work for a CRO who doesn't understand marketing, right? So somebody along the chain needs to understand the value of marketing. But that long-term, short-term thing is a big challenge. And I just recently wrote about this, which is, the statistic from LinkedIn, which is 95% of your, of your sort of complete buyer persona, of all the people that might buy from you, only 5% of them are in market at any one time. The rest of 95% are off doing their own research. And also, we've looked at stuff from Sixth Sense and stuff, which says that now buyers have got all the information they need. They don't need to approach vendors to learn about the category. They go do their own research. And by the time they're in touch with the vendor, as you say, they're quite far down that buying journey. And if you just hire people on demand performance growth, they're only going to focus on that 5%. They're not going to focus on the 95%. So
precisely.
And they're going to pop out of that. They're going to pop into your funnel with a preference.
Yep.
And then if it's not you, then, anyway, this isn't supposed to be my rant. This is supposed to be your rant, Cathy. So apologies.
That's okay. But I think too, because of these short-term pressures, we've heard the stat, and I don't know that it still exists. I should have dug it up before we spoke, but it used to be the average tenure for CMO was 18 months to 2 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
I don't think that's the case anymore. The companies that we've worked with, the people that I know, their CMOs have been in there for a while, well beyond the 18 months to 2 years. Now, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. But I think those coming in, again, we talked about, the junior, the nascent junior of of the teams now, right? The junior level, like
juniorification.
So how are they going to get to a CMO?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to do that, so looking to build a marketing team, a marketing function that is just strategically going to serve the organization, not only today, but into the future. You've got to look at someone who understands marketing, who understands creativity, who understands technology and data as well, and how to leverage those things. Now, I called BS on the CMOs, this new CTO conversation that we had about 15 years ago. That was crap. CTOs are, I bet you they're more than happy. You know what? You want to own the MarTech? Because it's such a teeny tiny part of their budget. They're like, go for it. Like, take it. One less thing for me to worry about, right?
Yeah.
But you need to partner with technology. I love having teams where there's somebody who is interested in tech, who actually works with the IT part of the side of the family, so the organization, so that they're asking questions, they're pressure testing, not just taking what they throw at them, and doing it with purpose. But I don't think the CMO should be owning. They own the business side, the business aspect of the tech, but they shouldn't be owning the actual technology.
But I think we've had this conversation on the show before, I think, which is that you, as a marketing leader, you do need to have an understanding of technology. You do need to understand what integrations you need to build, and generally how this shit works, under the covers. But I agree with you. You do need your specialists in your MarTech teams and your marketing operations teams for sure. But so this idea, where were we? We were talking about the CRO, the Chief Growth Officer, and then we moved on to juniorification of folks, the short term and the long term. So we're covering off a lot of the different bits of challenges that marketers are facing at the moment. So what are you seeing? What's the discussion you're having with your clients about how we move forward? What advice are you giving to the people you're talking to about this?
So I think those CMOs that are, have come up through the marketing or the creative ranks, who are staying successful, they're leaning into understanding the business and talking in business terms and impact. They're encouraging other parts of the C-suite that maybe owning the objectives and goals, to actually set them and articulate them as a baseline, so that then the marketing team can build off those, right? So we're going to do this, which supports this objective. We're going to do this, which supports this target, right? And leaning into playing a part of the team and showing that they understand the world, that it's not just a blank check to go and create pretty things, that what they're doing is strategic, that what they're doing is with purpose and has a long-term impact on the overall brand or business success. I think it's also working with other parts of the organization and working with them to create a content process that from ideation to archive, so that when the sales team says, you know what, we should do insert asset here. The first person that they pull in is someone from the marketing team to say, hey, I had this idea. How do we go about this? Rather than fully in their minds sort it out and then send an email to somebody in marketing and say, hey, do this. And because they're sales, and even though you have a process, people are like, just go ahead and do it because they're sales and they're the ones bringing in the money. I mean, sales is the most coddled, enabled, privileged part of any organization, as long as they're performing, and it's wrong. Like they're not doing themselves any favors, right? So let marketing be the bridge for that, and lean into working with the sales to align with goals and show how marketing's contributions actually help them, right? How if they work together as a team, they'll do better.
Absolutely. I was invited onto a podcast about go-to-market, so predominantly sales leaders on the podcast, and I was representing marketing, I guess. And what was interesting to me is they were talking about all these sales methodologies, really interesting stuff. And I guess you've probably been exposed to a number of sales methodologies yourself. But then when I reflected back, I thought it's very rare that actually the sales methodology that sales is going to use gets communicated to marketing, right? And so to your point just now, one of the conversations we had in that podcast was somebody was doing a challenger sale. The salesperson put together a challenger brief and a document that they then sent to the client. I thought, what would be wonderful there is if we were all working in that challenger environment and marketing were tasked with what are the ideas that I have that are going to challenge our market? How can you bring those to life? And how can you have these assets already prepared for our sales team to go forward? So I think that was an interesting thing that you just picked up that actually came through in a podcast I did a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, it's a tough environment, as you said. You know, I think when we were doing a lot of technology selections, we don't do as many anymore. You know, the whole SaaS and PaaS thing has sort of changed that environment.
True.
But one of the things that I know the stats back then were many organizations were 60 to 70% down the path of deciding who they wanted to work with, right? Now, when they hire us, that kind of changes because we go in and do deep stakeholder interviews and understand the true, like, what are they looking for, right? Not the table stakes, the thing that everybody has, but what are the differentiators that their unique situation is driving the acquisition of the technology. And I think from now that number is way higher. The research that I did for Smash, again, it was upwards of 80 to 85% before somebody reaches out in that environment. And I think that, again, is the same. And so communicating that and proving that, which isn't that hard to show with the right metrics, that's where they're going to be able to parlay that into, oh shit, maybe we should be listening to the CMO or the marketing team, right? And talking and educating about conversion and what that is and where it happens and why it's important, and spending more time on the enablement side versus the closing side or subset is just really, I'm surprised that people don't listen to it. But I'm a highly logical individual, so a lot of things surprise me.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I'm delighted to have this conversation with you, Cathy. It's a different perspective on a topic I'm very familiar with, obviously, and bang on and about. So it was really nice to hear what you thought of the CMO identity crisis. Some really good stuff there, and also that last point you were making about the selection processes these days. I think that would be an interesting conversation to go through with you another day, which is, you know, where does that leave the big analysts and the big gatekeepers that have existed in B2B tech for so long?
Happy to talk about that one because it's changed big time.
Yeah, exactly. These days it's very different, isn't it? And I also wonder if people are hanging on to their technology a little longer as well. I mean, it used to be new CMO comes in, new website needs to be developed, and then that meant a new CMS, and that obviously would have implications on the whole stack. But I don't think that's the case so much anymore. I think maybe the new website bit is, a new brand bit is, but I'm not sure about. But that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah.
And I know that the Seventh Bear website is going through some kind of regeneration. From talking to Robert, but can people? Where would you recommend people go to connect with Cathy McKnight these days?
LinkedIn, although again, don't whatever. But yes, LinkedIn is where you can reach out and connect with me from that perspective. seventhbear.com. Go check it out now and then come back. Well, come back often, but keep coming back to see the new launch. We've got. I'm working on a couple of new content ideas that I think will be helpful and actionable. So look for that. And otherwise, here once a month, or when you need to fill in, you can always find me with Ian.
Hey, you're not a fill-in, Cathy. You're a regular.
No, but when you do, when people go on
right.
vacation, I get extra airtime, so it's awesome.
I do that. All right, Cathy, and yes, I'll see you in a month. It sounds like we're going to have lots to talk about. It sounds like you're developing some really good content ideas. And now you're off the road for a few weeks. Are you off the road for a few weeks? Yeah. All right, Cathy, I'll see you in the studio in a month's time. Thank you very much. And see you soon.
Yeah, thanks, Ian.
Cheers. Thank you, Cathy. Always a pleasure to catch up with Cathy and get her perspective from their clients and the work they're doing over at Seventh Bear. So that's a wrap on episode 296 of Rockstar CMO effing marketing podcast. Thank you for dropping a dime into your podcasting jukebox, selecting our track and jiving along with us. I've been your host, Ian Truscott. You can find links to me, Cathy, our blog, newsletter, and all of our previous episodes in the show notes at rockstarcmo.com. Coming up for us here on Rockstar CMO FM, we have Robert back in the bar on Saturday, and Jeff will be back in the Rockstar CMO studio next Wednesday, and we'll start digging into the plethora of reports and predictions as it's that time of year. And I hope you join us for some of that here on Rockstar CMO FM.
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Robbie Samuels hosts the On the Schmooze podcast. Robbie, tell listeners what to expect from the show.
Since 2015, I've interviewed entrepreneurs who overcame challenges to achieve success in their field or industry. Tune in to On the Schmooze to listen as I ask deep questions to elicit untold stories about leadership and networking.
And where can people subscribe?
Find the show at ontheschmooze.com or on marketingpodcast.net, or just search for it wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard them. Go subscribe. This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.